Hey guys, I am very happy and excited to have with me today the new Breville Oracle Jet. After a little bit of a campaign in convincing my wife that it was worth my spending 2,000 US dollars on a new espresso machine when she does not herself drink coffee, I've finally decided to retire this trusty old Barista Express, which I've had now for I think 7.5 years, somewhere in the neighborhood. I got it refurbished for about $300 from Breville. And it has worked really quite well, although recently it hasn't been pulling as good as shots. Probably I need to do some cleaning of the burrs or, an adjustment of the burrs internally or something like that. But I'm not really going to mess with that because at this point I kind of wanted to go a little more on autopilot. And yeah, this is maybe anathema to some espresso enthusiasts, but frankly, I'm a busy person. I've got a busy morning schedule, and this thing is supposed to be a really good split the difference kind of compromise between expert level espresso, where you can actually tinker with some of the parameters still, but for the most part, it does a lot of the stuff for you. So it takes a lot of the variables out of there, like the tamping, and of course the dosing. And apparently it's kind of hard to mess it up, but we'll see how it goes. By the way, a little precursor to this video, I just want to say as a beginning to everything else that this is not going to be a professional review. I say this about most things I do. This is really an unboxing and first impressions video, but I'm also not what I would consider to be, in spite of my having had espresso really regularly for probably a couple decades now, I'm no expert at espresso. So I'm not going to be here telling you whether it's too acidic or whether it seems sour or it's over or under extracted, obviously. I know a little bit about that stuff, but I would not consider myself to be an expert to the level of where I could actually provide you some useful reactions to that. Instead, we're going to go on this journey together. I'm going to unbox this and we're going to see what I like and don't like about it and how it compares to the old Barista Express here, both in terms of size, functionality, and just other little things that maybe other people haven't noticed. So let's go. All right, so let's see what we get in the box here. First of all, this thing does connect to Wi-Fi. It does indeed do its own firmware updates, which to some people might be kind of scary. I think that's a cool idea. Here's the instruction manual, of course. We'll come back to that because nobody needs instructions. We've got the larger 58 millimeter portafilter, which as compared to the 54 millimeter of the original Barista Express is obviously notably larger. I was doing a cleaning here, so I had a single shot in there, but you can see the difference here. Obviously, don't pay attention to the sizes of these two inserts here, but this is a much larger, much more commercial-like portafilter. And the idea here is that you get a little more even extraction probably because there's more surface area to spread the coffee grounds out across, even if you use the same dosage amount. And there's actually less coffee for the water to travel through before it reaches your cup. So that's the idea on that. Of course, you've got your milk jug here, your stainless steel milk container. You've got the filter basket here for a single shot. There are no dual wall baskets with this. That's something you got with the Barista Express. I guess they assume you probably don't want that with this. This is the water filter housing, I think. Here's the water filter itself. So put that together in a minute. And whatever this is here, this is probably the power cord or something like that. Let's see what we got here. No, this is just some other accessories. Okay, so this is like the accessories that go in the accessory tray. All right, let's see what's under here. Oh, they included an espresso maker. How nice of them. And I'm gonna have to lift this out, so give me a few minutes. Okay, so now we've got the espresso maker out of the box. Here's the old one, here's the new one. You can see it is a little bit wider, although some of that width appears to come from this kind of bowing outward a little bit in the front, which actually will probably play well with my design considering that this knob is included in the width as well. And hopefully it'll fit in this space up here, which is not overly large. In fact, got a measuring tape here. See if I can do this with one hand. I've measured this before. Don't worry, I'm not that guy. Well, hang on just a moment. Yeah, so right about 15 inches is how much clearance we've got width here. In terms of depth, we've got plenty of room. I mean, there's another, as you can see here, that's 14 inches, which I think this thing's a little bit more than that, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, it's a little bit bigger in general than the Barista Express. It's 16.7 inches high versus 15.9 inches high for the Barista Express, 15 inches wide versus 12.5 inches wide, and 14.5 inches deep versus 13.8 inches deep. So it's definitely a larger machine, but it's not so large as to be comparable to the original Oracle and the Oracle Touch, both of which are even wider and even I think, taller than this machine. So along with it, of course, you get the bean hopper, which, again, I'm going to try to do all this stuff one-handed here, so forgive me. Let's see. Hang on just a second. Okay, so there's that. Goes right on top here. We'll go ahead and try to get this thing rolling. There's our new Baratza, 45 setting grinder. How does this go on here? I'm not sure if I've got that in there right. Thought it went that direction. Well, let's see here. This may not be unlocked. We'll take a look at this next. Yeah, that's what it was. I had to lock this all the way. So anyway, now this just goes right in there like the old Barista Express one did. Looks pretty nice, actually. We're going to lock it now. And looks good. Fill it up with beans in a minute here. You also get a knockbox. It's one of the newer design. I think it's called a knockbox 10 or something like that, because it fits 10 pucks roughly. Looks nice. Looks nicer than the old one. I had this this old one somewhere around here. Where did I put that thing? Here it is. Which was the knockbox mini. I did like that, and it has like a brushed kind of aluminum thing, but this one matches a little better with the two-tone. You get the brushed and then the shiny down there at the bottom. I mean, again, you probably don't care too much about this if you're buying this thing for espresso, but it looks nice. And a little note about the top here. There's a little more room. Obviously, it's deeper than the old Barista Express's top. This, by the way, is where you put the water in, which I think is a really cool feature and something that actually changed my mind about whether I had room for an Oracle device. I didn't realize they actually had top water fill, which is pretty cool, even though the water tank is actually back here in the back. The water reservoir is here, and it can, of course, be removed for easy filling and for water filter swapping and things like that. There we go. Comes on out. See? So pretty cool. I guess we'll go ahead and install the water filter in this because we're going to need to do that anyway. I believe you have to soak it for 5 minutes first, so we'll do that in a second. Other notes, the steam wand is obviously quite a bit nicer. This is the auto milk wand, which supposedly does most of the work for you, and which is good for me because I'm not really any kind of latte expert. I don't do any latte art. I'm not sure if I've ever made a latte with this thing, which is kind of embarrassing. I'm mostly an espresso drinker, and sorry for the mess, by the way. I haven't even cleaned it up, as you can tell. But, and of course, this is the new fancy 5-inch touchscreen, which is supposed to be very, very nice. So we'll go ahead and take all this tape off of here, and we'll get it sitting up in its space, and we'll see how it fits. I'm actually going to do this, and I'll come right back. Okay, we got all the tape off here. I was distraught to discover that the plug design is exactly the same as the previous gen plug design, which means that since you can't really plug it straight in because it takes so much, I mean, look at that. Look how wide that thing is, or I should say deep that thing is. I'm going to be using a little adapter here so that I can plug it in sideways because, you know, it's the way it works when you've got very little space to work with in the alcove. So something else I noticed, oh, actually, well, let me talk about this first. This thing, you know, you've probably heard that it can be locked on the countertop, but it also can roll around easily. Pretty cool. It does roll extremely easily. You will have no trouble moving this thing, unlike the old Barista Express, which does not roll, and you have to like scoot it around anywhere you want to go. The other thing is the new drip tray, which not only is larger, which I really like, but also less angular, according to Breville, which allows for easier cleaning. And you can see that in action here. And again, apologies for how dirty the old one is, but here's the old one. I mean, look at this. And then I got all these like hard angles, and if you open it up here, it's clearly, you know, there's a lot more space for stuff to hide where you have to go in and clean it out. It's kind of hard to do. On the new one, it's not quite like that. It's a lot more rounded. And in here, we've got really almost nothing to clean. The little pop-up is actually part of this, and it just kind of slips right back on there, which is pretty cool. Here's our grate. Just kind of plop it on top, and you're ready to go. So, ready to go. Really like that. Also, the hidden storage still exists behind it, which did on the other one as well. This one's actually vertical, and it kind of slips in there. It sort of locks in, which is pretty nice. This one kind of pulls out every time you pull the drip tray out, which I don't love as much. So I do think that this redesign carries some merit to it. And I think for most people, they're going to appreciate those sorts of things. So, all right, get this back together. Again, apologies for any camera mishaps, trying to do this with one hand and make sure I've got everything in frame. Next thing I'm going to do here is go ahead and get this water reservoir ready so we can work with this thing. All right, so we've got the water filter soaking for the last couple minutes here. We're going to soak it for a couple more. And while that's happening, I guess we'll go ahead and put some fresh Sunnergasse coffee beans, which is one of the best coffee shops in Louisville. Shout out to them. I'm going to go ahead and just dump this. The roast date was 2 days ago on these beans, so it should be nice and fresh. I'm going to fill the whole hopper up. And the reason why is what I have been told, it actually doesn't really matter that much with respect to the freshness of the beans. I used to feel like that was a big problem. I do have a vacuum container for the rest of these, but for the time being, it should be fine. Apparently most people go through enough shots quickly enough, and these things are pretty well sealed and shielded from UV rays and that sort of thing, where it shouldn't make a big difference in terms of freshness. So we're just going to fill it up. Also, other people have noted that having it fuller, like above maybe perhaps this spot, actually helps with keeping the evenness of the grind, because the weight of the beans as it's grinding actually apparently contributes to the volume being consistent. So I don't know if that applies with this machine, but that's just what I've read. I'm going to actually rotate this here because you can do it any direction you want, and that gives me a little more real estate to work with up here on my width on the counter. I'm going to lift this up there. We're going to see how it fits. By the way, as I fill this up, happy to report that the stated capacity looks like it is accurate up to the max fill line. Okay, and now it's up in its spot, and look how beautiful that is. It fits perfectly in that little alcove. I'm actually a little surprised. Thought it was going to be wider than it is. Always happily surprised when that is the case with things. Here's our startup procedure. That is not how my latte art will work. I can promise you that. It will look nothing like that. Really sleek interface. Screen is really bright. Look at the light. Isn't that cool? The Barista Express does not have any sort of light built in. This actually has 2 LED lights, and they illuminate the workspace with a nice kind of 3000K color temperature, probably glow is what this is. I think my temperature in my kitchen lights is probably very close to that. Maybe a little bit more, maybe like 4000K if you care about that sort of thing. But it looks really good. I'm going to select English. Wow, the touchscreen really is responsive. It's very nice. Okay, it is currently 3:09 p.m. And the date is August 10th, 2024. Okay, we're going to connect the machine. I do accept the terms and conditions, even though I have no idea what those are. And now we are connected to the network. And we're going to continue setup. As you can see here, it shows you a little tour of each item, and you can tap these to get a little more information about what they are. Pretty darn cool. I will say the interface is really sleek. That's a really difficult to turn dial. I wonder if that's that's interesting. We'll come back to that in a bit. So anyway, pretty cool. Really like this this interface. If you don't know what you're doing and you don't feel like reading a manual, this is probably about as good as it gets. Interesting how that's angled there. See that? Maybe it was like that on the other Oracles. Not sure. The group head is heated on this machine. So let's talk a little bit about what's different between this machine and the other machines. Or maybe the ones you care about the most. We'll start with the Barista Express. Okay, and again, this is not me being any kind of espresso expert, but as you guys know, I'm a tech nerd, so I probably can digest a lot of this stuff. First of all, this thing was actually heated with what's called a thermal block, which is kind of the cheapest form of heating that Breville has in their units. It's fine. It heats up relatively quickly, but it does reportedly take several minutes to get completely up to speed so that you get like a perfect... I've already done all of this. Hang on just a minute, guys, and I'll continue explaining. Look at all this stuff. I guess we need to do this water hardness. Hang on. Give me a second to do this, and I'll come back and continue talking. Okay, and since I use refrigerator filtered water in my water reservoir for my espresso maker, I'm going to use that water here. Okay, I've dipped it in. I'm going to take a look at the results here, see what the heck that's supposed to mean. It says compare after 1 minute. So I guess let's continue and see what we've got. Assemble the new filter. We've already done that. Yes. Okay, improves the, yeah, it tells you about the filter here if you want to see this. Okay, we filled the tank, did that as well. Put the tank in. I'm going to be filling it from the top here when I refill because it's a lot easier for me. Okay, milk pitcher on drip tray. All right, I'll do that. Okay. Guess there's like a rinse cycle going on now. This is much quieter, by the way, than the Barista Express. Okay, so while this is happening, let's talk a little bit more about what's different. This thing is different from the Barista Express in a lot of ways. Of course, it's a lot better, but it's also different from the other Oracles. Not only is it less expensive at $2,000 US, which is very expensive. The other Oracles are higher than that, like $2,300, I think, and $2,700. Don't quote me on it, but somewhere in that neighborhood. The Oracle Touch is the most expensive. It uses a dual boiler setup like the other Oracle, which means you can brew coffee, espresso, and steam milk at the same time simultaneously. You can't do that with this one because this one actually uses what's called thermojet, hence the name Breville Oracle Jet, heating technology, which is actually like an almost instantaneous heating technology. It's also supposedly very accurate, but there's two thermojets. There's one that handles the heating coming from the water reservoir, and then one that handles the heating in the group head. And that's a unique setup because they haven't done that previously in the past. This is the first machine that actually does two different thermojet heating locations for accuracy purposes. So supposedly it will help with the accuracy using the PID for temperature and all that stuff. All right, so now I'm being asked whether the label on my beans says a roast on date or a best before date. Well, it's my understanding from reading r/espresso, which might be my first mistake, that getting anything with a best before date is like one of the 7 deadly sins. So mine is a roast on date. I'm going to select that. And it's now telling me that we need to make some adjustments. It may take more than one coffee to get it right. There's the grind adjust dial. Again, this is kind of hard to turn. I guess that must be by design, though. It probably is normal. We'll find out. Okay, so it's telling me about the differences in brew grind size, how it affects extraction. Obviously, we'll be messing with that in a minute here. 30, actually, it says adjust to 28, so it's teaching me how to do this. Okay, yeah, I got you. So I don't know if this is working like it should. Let's see, I'm adjusting it this way and it's not going. Okay, well, it's working. It's just really hard to turn. Maybe that's normal. It's kind of weird. I don't love this dial, to be honest, but fortunately I probably won't have to mess with it too much. And you can also, I guess, do it on here. Can you? No, you have to do that. Okay. All right. Okay, well, that's interesting. I'll play with that a little more later. I'm sure I'm going to have to anyway. Yeah, we're going to do the double basket. Okay. Sounds good. We have done this already. We will now insert the portafilter. This is asking me to do. Oh wow, gotta have a little bit of room here actually. So this actually may be an interesting problem. Let's try to angle this a bit. Yeah, you're gonna have to have a little more clearance to operate this thing than it initially seems like. Did you see that? So it starts out over here, and I mean you gotta get it kind of at this angle, and it's kind of long. So yeah, you probably have to scoot it forward some, which is probably what I'm gonna wind up doing. But anyway, okay, we've got it in the coffee grind cradle, and we're going to press the grind button or rotate the portafilter. We'll just do that. Much quieter than the Breville Barista Express. So one of the advantages also of the thermojet heating system, we're going to notice in a minute here, is that it does not require as much time to heat up. And so when you first turn this thing on, you basically are ready to make espresso. Unlike the Oracle and the Oracle Touch, where it takes several minutes for it to be optimal, and you have to run, okay, there we go, tamped, it's done. And you have to run, you know, some blank shots to kind of get the portafilter ready. And I don't have to do that apparently with this one, although they still recommend it. I have read that it isn't really necessary. Okay, so the cup is definitely not nice and warm. I'm gonna grab this one out of here. I guess I'll get one of these clear ones so we can see what's going on. And, okay, all right. Let's see here. I'm just trying to do this per instructions. So the tamping, a little bit suspect there actually, but that's okay. It's close enough, I think. I'm gonna give this a shot and see how it goes. It's a little bit different from the previous machine. Yeah, and this is just showing you the difference between a good extraction, like under extracted and over extracted coffee. Basically, you want to be in the 7 to 10 second range when it starts. We're gonna go ahead and brew. Actually, I can set settings here. We'll do a double. Yep, let's go. Listen how quiet this is. My gosh. That's the first thing you notice. Here we go, and the brewing has started. The pre-infusion took a few seconds, of course. Okay, took about 11 seconds. Might be a little over extracted. We'll see what it says. I'm going to have to assume this is volumetric and not time-based at the moment, because it's going way past where it normally would go. It's going to tell me it is over-extracted. Yeah, increasing the grind size, that's what I thought. So we'll adjust it, and it's going to tell me 29 to 30. All right, we'll give that a shot. Again, this knob is really interesting. I don't know how else to describe it. I guess we'll give this a shot again. I'm gonna keep on trial and error here until we make this make sense. Portafilter's in, yes. I'm gonna grind the coffee. Okay, looks pretty good. Let's get this moved over here. Cut back under there again, which I did not really wash very well, but that's okay. Portafilter kind of fell into it. Some of the stuff fell into it. That's definitely quicker. Maybe this is why I need one of these machines, because it obviously knows more about extraction than I probably do at this point. I'm not sure I need more than this. Probably should have had a bigger cup here, I suppose. Stop. You got to hit the, oh, you have to hit the icon, not the timer at the bottom. Slow pour. It didn't seem slow to me. It seemed pretty normal. We'll keep trying here, and I'll come back and give you my impressions on how this is going. Okay, I believe this is shot number 4. So let's go ahead and, once we've done all of this, all right. I'm going to use a slightly larger cup this time. See how long it takes for this to start. Here's pre-infusion. There we go. It's coming definitely quicker that time. Okay, that is absolutely quicker. So we'll see what it thinks about this flow rate. Okay, that I'm sure it's happy with. Yes, fantastic. Pretty cool though that it was able to help me do this. If I didn't know anything about coffee, this would be the most useful thing in the world, and I would still feel like I was doing something. And clearly I don't know enough, because I was actually a little surprised at how it was suggesting my adjustments. I probably would have had stopped the extraction earlier and assumed that that was enough volume in some of those other circumstances. So this machine is clearly for a certain type of person. That person is probably me. Someone who is busy, who knows a little bit about coffee, but not a ton, even if they're a bit of an enthusiast when it comes to, you know, coffee-based drinks, and likes their black coffee and their espresso and stuff like that, like me. But it does guide you to the extent that you don't have to think too hard about it. So if you're busy, which I always am, you know, this is really nice to be able to get up and just kind of have it help you through it. Obviously, I haven't done anything with this steam wand or any of the other drinks yet here, but maybe that's for a future video. Okay, now we're going to do an Americano. So I guess we'll go ahead and say 5 ounces is fine. Yeah, we're going to leave it at that. Sounds good. Here goes our hot water. Really neat that it shows a graphical readout of how much time you've got left until the end of each step. Cool interface. All right, and I mean, I didn't think I was going to do a, am I doing a latte? Is that what's going on here? I can't remember what drink it said it was. Strike that, that was it. It was just showing me that I can do that in the future if I want to make lattes. So I guess I'm just going to go ahead and pour this into here. And we're going to try it out in a minute here and see how it tastes. But before that, let's get through the rest of this setup here. I definitely think dark mode is the way we're going to do things. We'll do that in a second here. Okay, and the machine setup is complete. Let's dig a little bit through some of this stuff. Oh, we've got an update. All right, we'll let it do an update and see how long this takes. I guess it's already downloaded. Looks like it. Gotta tell you, the over-the-air updates thing is something I am a fan of. That means that Breville can adjust and correct things as needed. If they have firmware problems, they could fix those. Hopefully they do a better job than CrowdStrike did at staging their rollouts. All right, and we've got an update installing here. That only took about 30 seconds. I guess while that's happening, I'll give this a shot and see how this tastes. Might be too hot for me, but Oh yeah, that's really good. Of course, half the battle is the beans. Again, these are great. Good stuff. Well known on the interwebs as being one of the better coffee places in the area. Okay, so it's taking a little bit of time. There we go. Light comes on. Everything's up to date. Pretty cool. Let's see what we got in terms of options here. So first of all, look how responsive this touchscreen is. It's great. My kids are excited about the hot chocolate. We're going to give that a shot. It's also neat that they've got tea built in, and you could do your own custom drinks. You start with a base drink, and you kind of set things up. Look at this, create custom. Pretty neat. Let's see what this is all about. You can do how much you want to do there, how much water, how much milk, what temperature of milk, how much microfoam you want, what type of milk. Pretty neat. So, in terms of options, you can turn barista guidance on or off if you're the kind of person who thinks you know more than the machine. I certainly don't, it seems. Here you go. This is really neat. I'm not sure this was an option in the previous Oracles. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember this being anywhere available in those options. Volume-based and time-based extraction is a really important thing. A lot of people did not like the shift to time-based with machines like I believe the Barista Touch Impress had. It's a difficult thing for your brain to adjust to that, especially even though it's kind of the same thing, it's not exactly the same. So then you can check your temperature, of course, which by the way apparently can happen in 1 degree increments. Pretty neat. Just shows you how accurate it supposedly is. Then of course you can do some maintenance here, which happens automatically. It does suggest these things automatically if you get to a point where you need to do it. And the theme is dark, of course, right now. You can set your sound level. Screen brightness. Wow, we're only at 50%. This screen is really, really bright. It looks great. It's not an OLED. I can tell it's probably a high quality IPS, I think. But it is definitely a nice screen. Look at all this stuff. So pretty cool. Got to tell you, I'm impressed with the interface. And even though it took a little while to get it set up, it did warn me before we did it that that was going to be the case. Obviously, I haven't done anything with the steam wand yet. I'm going to play with that some, and the microfoam and the milk and all that. Maybe I'll do a separate video, even though I'm definitely not an expert at that stuff. But so far, I got to tell you, I think very well built. Build quality is top notch. Feels better than the Barista Express did. I love this top fill option for the water. That is a really cool thing. The new knock box is great. It fits right on top here underneath the cabinet, even though this thing is taller than the previous. Machine is definitely not as wide as I expected it to be based on what I read. I mean, it's supposed to be so wide that it barely fits here, and it obviously has more room than that. Although, having put the portafilter in here, I did notice again that it comes out at a pretty significant angle. What is that, like probably close to 45 degrees, which means you will need some more room to the side to operate this thing. So I just scooted it forward. That's fine. Again, that's really easy to do with this little lever down here that you can just adjust and then roll it around as you see fit. See, not too bad. You just lock it in place. Boom. There you go. So that's all really easy to do. I mean, none of this stuff is it's obvious that they put a lot of thought into this, and that this is clearly one of the more refined things they've put out as a company. So anyway, I'll try to provide some more input into this and maybe my impressions as I go forward for a bit. Oh yeah, one last thing. I really like how the water level is displayed here, and I guess this has been a staple of the Oracle series for a while. But it's great not having to peek around the side, especially when you've got it in a little alcove like this, try to see how much water you've got left. So really love that too. So, so far impressed, but we'll see how it holds up. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and I will provide more poorly edited amateur content for your consumption in the future.